right, I'm Chris Avina with American Outdoor News. Today we're here with Matt Haberger from BaseMap.com. Matt, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, hey, thanks for inviting me. Was great meeting you at the Leica event last week at SHOT Show, and glad to be on here and talk a little bit about BaseMap and what it is that we do.
Yeah, it's always nice going to SHOT Show, going to different events and meeting different people. You never know how one chance meeting is going to affect the way you hunt. And I
Yeah,
think BaseMap definitely covers that.
yeah. I think so. We've got a mobile mapping app for hunters. Helps folks know where they are in the field, drop markers, a lot of different features in there that we think are useful for hunters. Pretty much I think everybody has heard of some GPS hunting app in the market.
Um,
And we've been around since 2018, I think, is when we officially launched. And happy to talk about it today, and hopefully folks listening to this will learn something. So
Sure. There's a few GPS apps out there, some better than others, some have features that some don't have. How did you actually come up with BaseMap? What sparked your interest to dive into this?
yeah, so I'll kind of give you the history a little bit. BaseMap was founded by Jeff Bulch in 2018. So he's our original founder and current CEO. And Jeff grew up in Idaho. He spent a lot of time, all of his childhood and adult life hunting, and he was helping other people who wanted to go west and hunt plan hunts. And he spent a lot of time, giving them maps and showing them topo lines and teaching them how to kind of understand the terrain.
Mhm.
And around that time, obviously, the capability of cell phones with GPS in them became better known. And the cool thing about Jeff is like he's not your typical tech bro guy. He was working in the oil fields.
Wow.
Yeah, working in the oil fields, and had built up a little bit of savings and was like, man, this is an opportunity. I understand this space. I'm gonna hire some developers and build a prototype. And so that's what I love about Jeff is like he's not your typical techie guy. He's a normal guy that just like understood an opportunity and took a bet. And yeah, it kind of the rest is history from there. So
Mhm.
that's how it started. um, and BaseMap has built up a lot of features around land ownership, being able to check wind, drop markers, record your tracks. And I came in to play with BaseMap in about a year ago. I had been focusing on the kind of the Western hunting space and building out a website around hunt planning. So, for listeners who are unfamiliar with the West or haven't hunted the West, I like to think of it as like you could draw a line straight down the center of the U.S. and on the Western U.S. you have a lot of limited draw hunts. So if you want to, let's say, hunt for elk, you've got to apply, especially if you want to hunt in the better units, right, or
Yeah.
areas. And obviously, you also have a lot of public land too in the West. Everybody who's familiar with the East, like we just buy over the counter tags and go hunting, right? You go hunt your whitetail, your turkey, whatever. There,
Pretty
there
much.
are, yeah. I mean, there are more, draw hunts coming about. Like if a state's got an elk population, or let's say a new kind of bear population, they'll have some limited draw hunts. There might be limited draw hunts around particular wildlife management areas or conservation areas in a state. Especially if it's near like an urban population, there'd be a lot of hunting pressure. The
Sure.
state wildlife agency might manage that hunt. But in the West, a lot of your hunts are just limited draw. Um, so there's a lot of planning. Sometimes it can take years to draw a tag with preference points or bonus points. So long story short, that's what I was focusing on. And BaseMap really wanted to integrate that whole aspect into the mobile app. And so, they acquired my company about a year ago, and I joined the team and have been helping them with that and a lot of other mapping stuff. So, my background is all focused on data and AI, and that's kind of how I spent the last 10 years of my life, is running teams and big companies doing that, but have grew up hunting my whole life, and I spend 10 to 30 days of field every year. I was hunting. So yeah, I'm happy to be in the industry full time and doing this.
Well, one of the things I like about the app, and I did have an opportunity to skim through it and play with the different features and whatnot. Aside from being able to map out private and public land,
Yep.
um, you're able to research stats of areas
Yeah.
of different species. And if you're planning a DIY hunt, do-it-yourself hunt, um, you're able to take all that into account of where you want to go, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So I grew up in Minnesota, just hunted whitetail. That was like the big thing, and some grouse and stuff. And then, slowly kind of migrated south. I'm in Arkansas now, but I think it was like 2018 or 17, I started hunting out west. And I'd take one trip every year and go hunt. And what you realize is, how do you choose where to go and what unit to apply to?
Yep.
And it's daunting if you don't know. And the states provide some resources, but not really all of the information is there that you would like to really be able to plan. Like, you might be able to see some basic information about a unit, but you don't really, you can't view like historical harvest statistics for that unit or the draw percentages over time and really understand, okay, is it becoming easier or harder to draw? Are people harvesting more or fewer, animals in this unit? And so that's kind of what we've really brought into the app is, with a couple clicks inside of the hunt planner, you can easily say, all right, I've got, let's say, one preference point in Colorado. So folks who are unfamiliar with Colorado, it's a preference point state if you want to
Yep.
try a limited entry tag there. And so, you could say, I've got one preference point. I want to hunt units that have, 50% or more public land. I want to make sure I've got a harvest success rate of 10% or more, and I want to use a bow. And
Hmm.
with a couple clicks, boom, you'd be able to see, any units that fit that criteria. And then you could dive in and learn a little bit about the unit and see, what actual hunt to apply to. So all of that that used to take hours or days or weeks to do, we've kind of boiled down into something you can do in minutes. And what's cool about it that you don't see on some of the others and other applications in the space is like ours is all on the mobile device. So
Hmm.
where you like wherever you are, you can just start playing with it. Like, if you're not interested in the conversation at you know your dinner party, just pull up the hunt planner. If you're sitting in church and you're not listening to the sermon,
Yeah.
pull up the hunt planner. No, don't
Well,
don't do that, but
like I'm in New York, so I don't have to
yeah.
worry about preference points. But if I'm going way up north into the Adirondack, it's vast and
Yeah.
thick
Yeah.
and very easy to get turned around if you really don't know the woods there.
Yep.
Even if you do know the woods, it's easy to get turned around. Now, the trail graphics and the satellite imagery and the 3D imagery I found uh, really on point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves in. So we make sure, the best satellite imagery on the market is Google Maps. Like, nobody else can compete with Google.
Yeah.
And so that's what, our base map is Google Maps. That's what we use. They've got the best imagery. But like you said, having that crystal clear imagery and then making sure you've got trails. And we've got some cool features around being able to drop a marker. So let's say like you're talking about you're out there in the field, you're in the thick woods, but before you left your truck or your car, right, you dropped a
You drop a
marker.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, you drop a point and you say, okay, here's where I park. Now I'm out hunting and I'm, half a mile away, but I'm in thick timber. I'm in some evergreens, whatever it might be. You're like, okay, I got to navigate back. I mean, you could just kind of pull up the app and, look at where you are currently on the app and then try to navigate back to it. But we've got this
Yeah.
cool feature. You can just tap the pin or marker that you dropped, and then there's an option to say go to, and it'll actually pull up like a compass, and you can start navigating towards it,
Yeah.
and it'll tell you, go left, go right, like how to stay on course, how many yards you are away. It's
It's funny you say that because if I'm up in the Adirondack where I know it's easy to get lost, uh, first thing I do before I venture in is I'll shoot a line on my compass
Yep,
and note the coordinates, make a note of it, and head in.
yeah,
Sometime to head out, I look and I know which way to go. But with this, it not only tells you how to go, it gives you the graphics of
right,
okay, you're heading into the brush. If you stay to the left, it's a little clearer. So
yep, yep,
it's a lot more helpful than just the manual. With a compass or some of the other GPS um, competitors out there.
yeah,
The
yeah,
graphics play a key role. But not only that, I mean, this tells you the lunar phases, the when sunrise and sunset, the wind speed. So it really becomes a hunting aid
yeah,
on top of a GPS.
yeah. We have like a weather center that's built into the app, and it shows you all those statistics. We spend a lot of time evaluating different weather providers and trying to get the most accurate weather data possible in there. And it was funny when I was talking to the Jeff and the team at BaseMap, initially before joining them. I was looking at the weather data and I'm like, man, this is spot on. And I used to work for a company that had a mobile weather app, like very popular, top five in Android, millions and millions of users.
Yeah,
Um, and so we spent a lot of time evaluating the best sources of weather data. And when I asked the team, I'm like, who do you guys use for weather data? They told me, I was like, yep, you picked the best one. It's a good one. So yeah, that data is all in there, and it's great because um, we intelligently make sure we pull the data down and have it on your device, so you can kind of see, even if you lose service, you'll be able to see for up to 7 days um, what the weather forecast looks like. And then, you know, one of the things that I find the best is you're always out in the field and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, time sunrise today or what time sunset today? There's the option to, click on sunrise or sunset to get that table instead of
yeah,
having to like go back and look at the regulations and say, when is it in this area? So a lot of cool stuff like that. And the there's cool wind features in there too, which anybody who's, hunting whitetails know, like if you if you if you're not using the wind and cognizant of where the wind's coming from, that's the easiest way to blow a hunt.
yeah,
So a lot of our we've got this cool hunt wind feature where you can show like which direction your scent is being blown or will be blown over the next couple hours. So that's good to be able to plan out your hunts and say, okay, where do I want to sit this evening based on where the wind's going to be coming from. So
that's great. I mean, it is. It's so much. It's feature rich.
yeah,
Where if you need something, it's there. You just got to look for it. And let's face it, people are lazy. You know.
they are. They are, but I'll say, you know, it also is on the company to make sure they've got good tutorials. That's one of the things, we've been working on this year is making sure we've got more tutorials about how to use the different features because um, we did a user survey like a couple months ago, and we were asking users, okay, what features are the most important to you? Which ones do you really find helpful? Which ones don't you? And there were more people than we would like saying, huh, I didn't know that feature was there.
Yep,
So one of those things where you're like, yeah, you always got to be trying to educate people. And sometimes, you like even users who have been using the app for a couple of years, they maybe were using a feature at one time, they kind of changed their hunting or they moved and a feature became less important, or they just kind of forgot it was there. And so making sure that they remember, hey, we have these other features, and then um, figuring out ways to use them. One just a funny little story here. Um, when when I was flying out to SHOT Show, one of the things I always do too is if I'm in like an airport parking lot, I mark my vehicle there in the
yep.
airport parking lot, and then I use BaseMap to navigate back to the where I parked when I get out of the airport because it's like, I mean, you don't,
I
you can.
usually just take a picture of the section.
Exactly. You're like B3, and then you hope to get back there. But yeah, it's great because like you leave the terminal and you're like, okay, now I know exactly where to go as I'm heading back.
So
So
you could not only use this for hunting, you could use it for your everyday life. You could use it camping. You could use it hiking.
yeah,
There's so many applications that you could use it in your everyday life. It's not restricted to hunting.
yeah, totally. That's, a lot of trail, like we've got all the trails marked on there, whether it's, if you want to go off-roading or something like that, you want to hit a, um, minimum use vehicle trail in a state forest or something like that. Those are in there. You want to do the hiking trails, you want to see where camping spots are. All that
Yep.
stuff's built into the app. So, yeah, and, obviously one of the other things that all of all of us are always interested is like, oh, who owns that house? So the land ownership, I find myself using that. I'll just be like driving down the road. You're like, oh, well, that's an interesting property, or
Yep.
I just saw something change there. That one went up for sale. Like, who's got that property? So you can just pull up the land ownership layer, click on it, see it. All that stuff's there. Another use that you know it is kind of a cool one that people probably wouldn't just think about immediately, but we've been in this process of building a house and we bought um, about 40 acres, I don't know, 2 years ago. And we're trying to figure out where exactly to put the house and on the property. And I use the slope angle layers so you could kind of see, for folks not familiar with slope angle layer, it basically shows you the steepness of a particular piece of property, right? So you
Yep.
can you can get the color coded line showing you, oh, the more red it is, the steeper it is, the greener it is, the less steep it is. And so um, when we're just kind of rather than having to walk every single bit of the 40 acres and be like, okay, here, our initial spot was like, okay, we wanted a good view of the valley, so let's figure out where there's a nice steep angle, so I don't have to clear like a mile of trees,
Yep.
to get a good view of the valley. So that's how one of the ways we kind of figured out where we wanted to put our house that we're building.
Nice.
Yeah,
Now, I think an important feature that we haven't mentioned is the offline mapping, because we're going to be in places that you don't always get reception.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Offline mapping is pretty key, especially for folks again. If you're in the East, there's fewer spots that don't have cell phone service. But even sometimes, like you don't know when a tower is going to drop or when you're just going to have spotty reception. So it's nice to be able to just download your maps on
Yep.
your device. So if anything happens, you've still got access to them. Don't worry about a signal dropping. you know, just download your maps so that they're there. And yeah, we've got the offline mapping function. And probably shouldn't say this, but uh, even our basic account where you don't pay anything, you can download offline maps. Now you can't get all the layers, but you'll still have satellite imagery, you'll have a topo
Mhm.
layer, you can still drop markers. So like it's really beneficial. And I'd encourage folks, even if they don't want to buy a subscription, just go download it because um, just from like a safety perspective, it can be really great to have that on your app, on your phone, in case you lose reception, to be able to navigate back to your car or wherever it is.
Well, personally, I mean, if you're an outdoorsman, you're avidly in the woods, um, subscription's $30 a year.
Yeah,
I mean, what's it worth to you to not get turned around and lost in the woods?
yeah, agree,
It's
agree.
$30 for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's very affordable, especially compared to some of the competitors out there.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, what's your life worth?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it comes down to.
Yeah. We think it's pretty pretty affordable, especially for the feature set. So um I guess something else we should hit on, for why we were at the Leica event. Um, we have we have a feature where you can integrate if your binoculars or your rangefinder, um, I guess even scopes, if the manufacturer develops a scope with Bluetooth integration, where using that Bluetooth connection, you can sync your binoculars or your rangefinder to the device. And if you drop a point, or you mark something, you range something, it will actually drop a pin in the app.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, so that's a pretty cool feature that is super beneficial for all types of use cases. The one that I use it for and use it for this year is hunting my property, had a 8 point come in, I ranged him, okay, he's like 100 yards away, shot him, and then he took off, didn't drop right away into some thick brush, and I ranged the last spot that I saw him take off into the brush. So, all right, now on my map, I've got those 2 points, and I mean, every hunter knows this. Like, take a shot at an animal, and hopefully you remember where you were looking and where he was standing, and
You forget it easily because
yeah, yes. So, like you just get, the excitement, the adrenaline. Lots of times you forget, and it takes time. Some like I probably spent more years than I care to admit before I could force myself to, after a shot, say, okay, Matt, you need to think about where that animal was standing, find some way to mark it, think about the
yeah,
last spot that you saw him, find some way to mark it, and then you go walk over there. And lots of times you're off, you know.
yeah. From
It,
from where you shot, you walk into where you think it is. You could be off 50, 70 yards easily.
yeah, yeah. You just don't know, especially depending on the landscape that you're in, right?
Yep.
Um, and so this makes it way easier to actually just walk over there and know, within a very small range of uncertainty, we're talking, under 10 yards. Lots of times it's within like a yard. Um,
Yep.
where that animal was standing, you can check for blood there. And like in my case, that deer didn't start bleeding for 20 yards. And we didn't have snow on the ground. Everything's kind of brown and red on
Yeah.
the, it's really hard to blood trail. So I was able to just walk over to that last spot that I saw him before I entered the brush. And as I was walking there, okay, 20 yards over, I see the blood trail, right? It's a good hit. I find the animal. He's maybe 30 yards more into the brush, and it was like, okay, cool. So recovery, like that's a big thing. Makes it really easy if you have Bluetooth. But even if you don't have a Bluetooth device, which a lot of people don't, right? You can still just manually punch in whatever that range was.
You could drop an
And
estimated.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool. Like we call it the nav cam. So you would punch in the range and say, okay, he was 100 yards, and then you just pull up your device and it'll activate the camera, and you'll be able to say, oh yeah, it was right there. Tap, drop the pin, and it will drop the pin 100 yards. But now you're visually looking at it too to that spot, so it'll just
Yeah,
drop it right there.
that's awesome.
Again, just almost as accurate as if you had the Bluetooth connection in your rangefinder. So.
So where can we find base map?
So we're in the, both the App Store and the Google Play Store. So whether you got iOS or Android, you can just go there, type in BaseMap, and you'll be able to, install the app. You can obviously go to our website, basemap.com, and check us out. We've got, a bunch of information there if you want to look at the features before you install it too. So either of those, and then, we're on all the social media. We don't post a lot, but we're gonna start posting more. We're gonna get better about that. A little bit better about the marketing. We're kind of techie nerd guys, folks like to keep to ourselves, so we got to get better at promoting BaseMap.
All right. Well, we're starting here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's why I was thank you very much for having me on and allowing me to talk about BaseMap, Chris.
My pleasure. But we're running out of time. Go to basemap.com or look for it in your Apple or Google Play stores. Don't forget to subscribe to American Outdoor News Podcast and the magazine as well.
Hold on.
And we look forward to seeing you on the next broadcast.
All right. Thanks, Chris.